Hello everyone and welcome to this video. I'm Dr. Arni Tuomi from Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences, and I'll be talking briefly about the opportunities that robotics provide to tourism SMEs. So the presentation is split into three parts. First, I'll discuss some drivers of automation in tourism. Then I'll give some examples of automation with regards to robotics and AI in tourism contexts. And then finally, I'll discuss briefly some management implications. So first, in terms of drivers for automation. So why do tourism companies, or why might tourism companies use robotics or AI-powered automation to streamline operations? So we did a couple of different studies on this topic with colleagues from the UK, from China and Japan a couple of years ago, and we ended up with a model that looks like this. So here we're trying to map the drivers of organizational adoption of automation in tourism contexts. So we saw that there's three sort of key drivers. On one hand, there's the technological progress itself. So as technology development continues, solutions that used to be expensive and thus out of reach from SMEs become cheaper and cheaper. And that's kind of compounded by new pricing models like software as a service or robotics as a service, where you don't have to make a front investment or an investment upfront, but you can rather lease the technology for a subscription-based fee. So there's more and more solutions more easily available to companies. And that's one driver of adoption, of course. But there's also customer demand and expectation. So customers increasingly expect more and more streamlined operations, customer journeys that kind of lean more towards self-service, or at least gives the option of self-service to kind of empower the customer more. And then there's the operations level driver, so labor shortage specifically. So there are issues that have to do with the characteristics of tourism. It's a seasonal industry, so demand for labor fluctuates a lot depending on whether it's on or kind of high season or off season. And then there are also other issues related to labor mobility, etc., that drive the adoption of technology. And actually, we in the papers argue that this human part, this labor shortage part, or people management part, how do we manage the human resource in tourism SMEs, is the most important one out of all of these levers or drivers of organizational adoption of automation. But if you're interested in finding out more, I'll list the references to the papers that I'm talking about in the slides. So please do engage with the full material for the full experience. Now, if we look at some specific context in tourism, namely here F&B, and we start to think, well, what kind of jobs and tasks does an F&B operation include? We can start to think, well, which ones of those tasks might be automated with, let's say, a robot. And this is from another piece of research that I did a couple of years ago, where I looked at frontline food service job descriptions from the UK government kind of facilitated database, basically a database that lists different occupations and the key tasks that occupation includes. Here's the listing for a kitchen assistant. So according to this, a kitchen assistant does 5 types of tasks. as part of their job. So then we can start to think, all right, so which one of these tasks could be automated with current technology? Maybe some of the tasks are more likely to be automated. Some of the tasks are less likely to be automated. So we can kind of talk about technology substituting the employee or the technology supporting the employee. And actually, in the vast majority of cases right now, when we talk about robotics and AI specifically, we're talking about support, technology supporting the employee, meaning taking on some of the tasks that the job includes, but not all of the tasks. So not substituting the employee altogether. Simply changing the makeup of the task a given job has. So if you look at kind of headlines that report on robots taking over more and more jobs in a given industry, like here as reported by the BBC a couple of years ago, actually what these types of studies or statistics are saying is they've looked at, like I just showed you, the tasks that a given job has, and then asked some experts to evaluate which one of those tasks has high or a low probability to be automated. All right, and then we get a scary headline that 73% of waiters' tasks will be automated in the next N amount of years. All right, so we can think, well, what's good about these types of statistics and what's wrong with them? Well, what's good about them is that maybe on a bigger scale, they give some indication of how labor conditions in a specific sector are evolving. What might be some areas where we have bigger skills gaps or a bigger need to retrain people or upskill people. But actually they hide a lot of contextual specific information behind the crude numbers, right? They hide the fact that not all waiters have a similar job, right? They might do similar tasks, but a waiter in a 3 Michelin star fine dining restaurant and a waiter at a small family-owned restaurant or a waiter at a restaurant as part of a big chain will all have very specific types of tasks and ways of fulfilling those tasks, of course, depending on the contextual setting. So the statistics kind of hide all of that contextual information. Now, from a management point of view, you might end up doing kind of a cost-benefit analysis type calculation like this, where you split the job of a given person into the tasks, and you then start to look at the volume or the repetitiveness of a given task across a certain period of time, whether that's a day or a week or a month or a quarter or a year. And then you might, based on that alone, start to think, all right, what should be automated? Which of these different pieces of the pie should be automated if current technology allows us to do so? So where does it make business sense, a good return on investment, to even think about applying automation through, let's say, robots or AI? But of course, these are not, this is a very kind of productivity-driven example that I'm giving you here. You might, of course, consider many other factors than cost in the decision to kind of even apply automation in ways that I'll soon give examples of than these. Things like job satisfaction, retention, kind of health and well-being of the staff, etc. All right. So with that as a backdrop, I'll give some examples of how robotics and AI are influencing tourism jobs right now. So in our research, and again, I'll give you the citation there, we looked at different types of AI and robotics technologies out there right now, and we kind of divided them into 3 broad categories of automation. So we saw that we have technologies that are to do with autonomous navigation, and we dubbed these as the automation of the use of legs. Then we saw that there's a category of technologies that are about object manipulation. We dubbed these as the automation of the use of hands as a heuristic. And then finally, we saw that there are technologies that have to do with automation of signal processing. For example, the automation of the use of eyes, ears, or mouth. And we developed this kind of heuristic, simple heuristic to help in understanding how robotics and AI influence frontline tourism and hospitality operations. So whether it's about leg automation or leg movement automation, hand movement automation, or then the automation of senses, maybe this helps. Maybe it gives some kind of a framework to think through this phenomenon of using robots and AI in tourism SME contexts. So some example. First, autonomous navigation. So autonomous navigation in hospitality and tourism typically refers to something like this. So having a robot deliver things from A to B, whether that's within a restaurant to deliver food or used dishes between the kitchen and the front of house, or whether that's in a hotel to deliver goods from the reception to people's rooms via room service, whether that's at an event where you have a robot kind of acting as a navigation aid, kind of like a signpost that does a bit more than a traditional signpost. Maybe it can even lead your guest to their destination, etc. So robots that automate leg movements, essentially. And there are many different companies supplying robots like this for hospitality and tourism companies. And there are many examples of companies making use of these sort of robots. One example here that I want to highlight is Voodoo Robotics' BellaBot. Maybe you've heard about this. They have a pretty large suite of different robots under their product line. Here's a couple of them, along with an actual example of a delivery robot in a restaurant context. So kind of a step-by-step process of how would the customer's journey go in visiting a restaurant that used a robot like this. Okay. And then in addition to having robots deliver things within a premise, within a restaurant or a hotel or an event space or an airport or whatever the space is, we of course also have this automation of leg movement outside of physical venues. So sort of autonomous navigation in the wild. So we have more and more companies focusing on delivery, for example, delivery of food or delivery of groceries in different types of outdoor environments, whether that's at university campuses or business campuses or city centers or even remote areas. So automation of legs, a lot of movement there, a lot of pilot projects that have scaled up, and much of this is kind of driven by innovation or kind of basic R&D investment in the effort to make autonomous vehicles. All right, so this is kind of like a spin out or knock-on effect on research that primarily took place in the context of making autonomous driving a possibility. So that's why there's a lot of examples of these, a lot of companies working on this, and kind of the solution, the technology is pretty far developed already. Then if you look at object manipulation, so automating the use of hands, there are examples both in kind of back of house type of operations. So here in the context of a restaurant, we might have a robot arm assist with the cooking process, or front of house type applications. We might have a robot arm serve customers directly in terms of, for example, maker shaker, the picture on the left, a cocktail making robot, or blended, a smoothie making robot on the right. So there are many examples of robot arm doing some sort of a service task that used to take a human arm before. And then finally, we have signal processing. So kind of automating the senses in some way. So perhaps the biggest application area right now is different forms of computer vision, so automating sight. For example, to streamline a drive-through queue like here. So if we have a loyalty program where we've asked our customers to register maybe their driver, the car plates, registration plates, and then we have a computer vision system outside of the restaurant monitoring the queue. We can kind of link our car in the queue and our guests info from our loyalty program, so that we know how their past behavior has been before they even come to the checkout to place their order, so that we can then personalize the customer experience better for them. Other examples include things like this, so having a computer vision system to assist with reducing food waste, so monitoring what goes into a rubbish bin inside a professional kitchen, or then about natural language or voice recognition type applications. So more and more of these sort of smart speaker solutions are also used in tourism contexts. And then finally, we have, so here's another example from DoorDash. And then finally, we have more and more of this kind of natural language or text-based automation through different types of chatbots. Now, this is an area of kind of high high volume development because of all of the recent interest in large language models and kind of the new capabilities that people have seen from tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or other large language model. So kind of getting more and more intelligent chatbots to deal with natural language queries. So in our framework, we would kind of refer to this as automating communication, so mouth and ear in terms of sensing. All right. So what does that then look like on the ground level? So here's a short video. I'll play just a little bit. So what we have here is a computer vision system on top of a cooktop, just monitoring in real time how food product here, a hamburger, is made. So in real time, monitoring if all of the ingredients are there as they should, if, for example, the employee is wearing gloves or not, if they're using a chopping board, are they using the right color chopping board, etc. So applications like this also with regards to quality control are becoming more and more used. All right. So what does it then mean from a management point of view? So we've looked at this through several studies with my colleagues, and overall, there's sentiments that AI and robots specifically are seen to be ideal for sort of these dirty, dull, and dangerous tasks. And specifically, the current iteration of these technologies in hospitality and tourism contexts tend to either support employees, substitute employees, offer businesses a unique chance to differentiate from the competition, improve research distribution and final service offering, and then finally change service employees' required skill sets and transform or even upskill existing roles by effectively changing the makeup of the different tasks that a given job consists of. Again, for further details about this framework that we developed, please do refer back to the original research paper that I'm citing here on the slide. And finally, another research paper that we published some time ago, looking at the specific role changes that AI and specifically robotics bring about in hospitality and tourism context. So we saw 5 different types of new roles in companies that make active use of the types of technologies that I've shared with you today. So on one hand, we saw roles related to enabling or coordinating how the technology is used. So more of a focus on assisting customers in using the technology or dealing with any problems that may arise, kind of like a help desk, or then coordinating the service process at scale. So some sort of a supervisory role where one employee coordinates the use of many different machines and only steps in when issues arise. So at least in principle, a move from doing operations directly to supervising machines that do operations instead. In addition to these, we also, in our research, saw a greater emphasis on employees as differentiators. So basically, the argument here is that the more automation is applied, the more that then highlights the touch points within a guest's journey that are not automated, meaning that there the employee's expertise and personal flair has a greater potential to stand out from competitors than before. So if you think of this commonly used idea of high tech versus high touch, kind of a dichotomy, do we go high touch or do we go high tech? Our argument here is that if we go high tech, that actually simultaneously highlights the touch part of the service process, meaning that we then pay extra attention, more attention than before, to the elements that still remain unautomated. Specifically, this we saw in our research gives rise to employees being more like coaches or educators as part of the service experience. So bringing added value by educating customers about, for example, ingredients used or technology used or process used or some other domain-specific insights that might elevate the customer's experience from a basic service experience to something greater, from service to a more of an experience. And then finally, we saw that using technologies like the ones that I've mentioned today also give rise to employees for focusing more on seeking in opportunities for improving or innovating the operations, kind of seeing between different domains, similarities or parallels, and opportunities for doing things better. So that's all for now from my end. Thank you very much for joining the video, and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or any feedback, anything at all, please do reach out through the channels listed below. Thanks so much, and see you next time.